Here we are. We want to have a bicycle on each side of the van so that we can store our other camping stuff and gear in here. Hello and welcome to vanofaction.com, where we're taking a 2018 Dodge Promaster van and building a family camper. And today we're talking about getting our bikes in under the bed so we have them with us, but nobody knows. So come on along for the ride. And along the way, if you find it useful, please give us a like, a share, and by all means subscribe. And let's get started. On this side of the bike, ultimately, will be the electrical system, the batteries, the converters and inverters, and all that stuff. And on this side, behind the bicycle, will be the water tank, fresh water, hot water tank, water pump, with an outdoor shower located about here somewhere. Now, sometimes people mount these bicycles on a drawer that slides out. To be honest with you, those drawer slides cost about $250 a set, and I don't see the benefit of it myself. I don't know that it's absolutely necessary. I think once we we're not going to get the bikes out like for one little ride here or there. When we get to a camping site, if we want our bikes out, we'll get them out. They'll be out for the duration. And then when we leave, we'll put them back in again. So I don't think it's going to be all that difficult, and I don't think it's necessary to have them easily in and out. So I'm not going to mount these on a drawer. I'm going to make it so that the tire fits in, the bike gets hooked up on a rack, and that's the end of it, and they'll be done. Now, in this particular install, this bicycle, the black one, has to go on the passenger side. The white one has to go on the driver's side because it's a little bit longer. And if you remember, the bicycles are longer than the bed is wide. I talked about that in the bed framing video. And so the bicycles extend beyond the bed into the cabinets behind, or like in the actual cabin of the van. And the black one has to back up against the cooler drawer, our refrigerator drawer. And I needed the shortest bicycle there because there's only so much space. We have the bicycle, then we have the cooler, and then we have our sink. And the cooler, because of its depth, has to fit into the wall panel before the door frame. Otherwise, the cabinet would have had to be a couple of inches longer over the whole length. I didn't see a benefit to that either. So the black one on this side, in order to get it in, I had to cut a couple of inches off of the nose of my fender. I don't even know what it's there for, but it's not there anymore. And now I'm going to build a fixture to anchor each bicycle to at this end, and then I'll do something to straighten out the back tires later on. First step is the front. Let's take a look. At the front of the bike, I want to build some kind of a bracket that I can bolt it to, just like if it was a tire. And the tire axle is 3/8 threaded rod, so I picked up some 3/8 threaded rod. I'm thinking if I can anchor this rod to the deck of the van, I can put some bolts on here, and it should hold it really steady. In a perfect world, this would just be a steel clip. But I don't know how to weld, and I want to get this bike in this week because we're going camping on Friday. And I don't know exactly how I'm going to get this just this way, so I'm going to try doing something out of wood. If I take a piece of plywood, good strong plywood, and put this in, this is my thought anyway, and then put the threaded rod across on top of that, and then sandwich the threaded rod between two pieces of wood, I think that probably will work. The one issue I have here is the bike is so far to the back of the van that immediately below this is the main frame of the van. And I don't want to start messing around with that. So I have to get something that'll be behind the frame back in here. So I'm going to have to get a clip that's just a little bit longer. I want to have a little bit sticking out, a little bit longer. Something just about that should work perfectly. That's what we're going to shoot for. Now here is a pro tip when you're cutting threaded rod. Before you make your cut, screw on one of the nuts onto the rod so it'll be on the cut piece after you've made the cut. Because you always have a rough burr on that thread, and a file will only clean it so far. Take the nut that you've put on and turn it back over the cut end of the rod, and it'll act as a die and clean the thread out of any burrs that are left behind. Sometimes you'll actually have to take a wrench to do it, but it works. It works every time you do it. One of the hardest things about this particular part of the job is getting the cut clean enough that you can get the nut back on easily, and it's not so sharp that it's going to cut your fingers. But this is a trick that'll work for you over and over again. that's the plan. That should work. Now it's just a question of building a little wooden block to be able to hold that up just a little bit higher and anchor it down to the bottom of the van. That should work fine. Let's do that. So the first thing I did was just glue a couple of pieces of plywood together that were the right width. And then with my $35 drill press, I drilled a 3/8 hole through that block. You could use a hand drill for this part of the job if you had to, and just had to be careful. It'd be possible, but I had the drill press, so I thought I would use it. And then I put the 3/8 rod through that hole, and I made the plywood narrow enough and the rod long enough to be able to have a nut inside the forks of the bicycle. That way, when I set the forks on top of that, the nut on the outside will pinch up against the nut on the inside, and the wood won't get wore out over time. This is the end of the bed. This is the edge of the bed. You'll see the bicycle goes beyond the bed into the cupboard behind, which is fine, which is absolutely great as part of the design. And on this side will be the electrical work. There's no issues with that at all. I may remove that pedal just to create a little more space so I don't lose it, but I have to get the wheel in there too somehow. Now, the wooden block on this side lines up with the structure underneath, so I can only get bolts on the edge of it, which I think are going to be okay. I'm going to have 2 3/8 high tension bolts on there. I think we're going to be fine. On this side, the bike extends beyond the bed and comes almost within 1/2 inch of the cooler, the refrigerator. So I'll have a very thin barrier there just to separate them, which will work fine. On this side too is the water heater. So I've put the water heater in, and this is not the water heater I was hoping to use. This is a 6-gallon tank. I had originally designed it for a 4-gallon tank, but because of COVID, they're not available anywhere. So in order to get this bike in, I had to move it just a little bit more to the center, and I have to make sure the pedals are in exactly the right place. And it's going to go in just fine. This block, there's no structure underneath it because I had to move it closer to the center, so I was able to get these 2 holes in just fine. I've drilled the holes through the block and through the steel, and now I'm going to put the washers on, figure out for washers below. Now for the washers, I got a little carried away here, there's no question about it. All you really need to do is be sure you have a nice strong steel plate. I used 2-inch by 3/16 inch flat steel. Made sure I had the holes lined up with where they had to be in each bracket. Drill those holes, clean off the burrs, and then give it a coat of paint. But I had all my fancy equipment from doing my roof rack, so I thought I would use some of it just for fun. The important thing here is to make sure, as I say, the holes are in the right place and that you're using a nice clean piece of steel that you know isn't going to rust away on you. After you've got it painted and it's dried, all you have to do is put the bolts through the plywood or the wooden brackets that you have, then come in from underneath and get the nuts and washers on, get everything cinched down tight, and you're set and it's all ready to go. I have to admit that this system worked out really well for us. We were able to travel for 7 weeks. We had our bikes with us the whole time. Nobody knew. And we felt they were nice and safe and secure, but when we wanted them, they were easy to get to. Very easy access, didn't take up a lot of space, everything worked out just fine. And we had people with very expensive vans asking us how we kept all our stuff inside, where'd we keep it all. Worked out really well. Thanks so much for watching this video. Hope you found it useful. If you did, again, please give us a like, a share, and by all means subscribe. Hope everyone's well. We'll talk to you later.